phenomenology aims at instituting truth as a subject beyond mere spinozistic substantiality, the subjectivity Hegel is after is not the unmoved Copernican I think of transcendental philosophy. Kant's subject still belongs to the autarkic order of Nathan's true coin. The standpoint of science results from a development in which consciousness achieves truth only by mediating its initial immediacy, thereby activating the negative power of the self and losing its fixity and guaranteed uniqueness. To recognize that knowledge in its immediate position is not yet true means that a fundamental Ungleichheit or Unterschied still separates consciousness from its content. Now, it is precisely this lack of identity between consciousness and object, this lack of truth, as it were, that determines the fluid, process-like character of thinking on its path to science. Such difference is the negative as the motor of the phenomenological process. In this way, Hegel draws to the center what traditional logic has always labored to keep out, where the negative is by definition a lack, is a falsity that general logic, being necessarily concerned with truth and only with truth, must block out of thinking. On Hegel's view, by contrast, the negative is the soul and the moving principle of the process towards truth, which is the very process of truth. To claim that a difference separates consciousness from its object is to claim that an Ungleichheit affects substance in relation to itself. To eliminate such difference is required recognition that what appears as an external action that substance only suffers is truly its own action. Only at this point substance is proved subject, namely when suffered external action is turned into one's free self-determination. It is this same turn that Lessing accomplishes in the Three Rings parable. The turn from the object-centered, fixed conception of truth, the numismatics of truth, which one may happen to inherit or possess as a given thing point, to a developmental notion of truth enforced by the subject's free activity and result of a historical process of self-determination. While the logic is a science of truth in the figure of truth, the phenomenology is a process in which truth appears in the complete series of its partial forms. Hence, truth is present along with its negative form, and is itself rather the totality of the false. For this reason, Hegel needs to debunk the common sense representations of falsity, which are the major obstacle to gaining access to truth. Common to these views is the assumption that truth and falsity are fixed, thoroughly separated, and unmoved determinations of things or thoughts. Under this condition, however, the question arises, why do we need a science of the false, or phenomenology? Can we start immediately with truth? The situation is similar to the one staged by Nathan's reaction to Saladin's question regarding the only true religion. Saladin pretends the answer to his query, the delivery of truth, to happen in the way of Schelling's pistol shot. Truth must be paid on the spot, so bas, so blanc. The understanding assumption is the same. Truth is separate from the false and immediately graspable as such. No need to labor on finding it. No need to dwell on falsity. But just as Pilatus' question is unanswerable in the framework of a numismatic theory of truth, so in the framework of the logic of the understanding, the access to speculative truth is inexorably blocked. It follows that such position must be refuted if the phenomenology is to lead on to speculative logic as science of truth in the figure of truth. It is no surprise, then, that in his argument, Hegel appeals to Lessing's refutation of the numismatic of truth. And this is your second passage that I'm not going to read here. Passage where Hegel directly quotes Lessing. Hegel rejects the common notion are determinate thoughts given once and for all. Such notion leads to the essentialist view that sets them as independent essences separated from each other, and consequently denies any Gemeinschaft between them. Moreover, he rejects the representation of truth and falsity as fixed, isolated thoughts and essences, as well as a view that deprives them of dynamic development and possibility of change. While Hegel's famous conception of truth as a whole or a system offers a programmatic backdrop for his argument, at this juncture he endorses Lessing's position to state his disagreement with the numismatics of truth. Hegel simply claims it must be contended that truth is not mean coin. The understanding's conception of truth is a numismatics of truth. Its fixation in the thin coin, its unmoved essentialization of value, which is consigned to the illusory process of abstract exchange, its appeal to the minting authority for ultimate validity, its radical separation of truth and falsity. These are the target for both Hegel and Lessing. And since Lessing has magisterially provided the refutation of such position, nothing more needs to be added. In the phenomenology, Lessing's refutation of the numismatics of truth becomes a starting point of Hegel's speculative developmental idea of truth. And now to the second part of the paper, truth and falsity in the Begriffswelt. In the introductory pages of the logic of the concept, Pilatus' question is raised again. In the transition from Wesen to Begriff, from the necessity of substance to the freedom of the concept, we can recognize a gesture that leads from Saladin's economic determinism of the truth coin, to Nathan's dynamic and historical idea of truth as freedom. The subjective logic, second main division of the science of logic, is framed from the beginning to the end by the issues discussed so far. Literally repeating the programmatic claim of the preface to the phenomenology, Hegel announces the task of the Begriffswelt as that of, this is a quote, bringing fluidity to the ossified material of traditional logic, and of reigniting the living concept in that dead material. Pilatus' question is raised in this connection. Even though it seems inherited from formal logic, conceptual truth is not a given, but is established through and as a process. The articulation of this process is the task of the Begriffswelt. Looking at this development in terms of the methodological moments of beginning, advancement, and end from the absolute idea chapter, we can establish the following points. First, the movement that first brings a concept to the fore starts with the end of the logic of essence, or with a movement that leads the logic of essence to its end and to the transition to a new sphere. This is the first, Hegel says, deduction or genetic definition of a concept. Significantly, while the term deduction suggests a Kantian reference, Hegel further develops this deduction in terms of a refutation of Spinozaism. To claim that the concept is the truth of substance is to refute Spinoza's metaphysics of substance, or alternatively, the view of substance proper to the logic of essence. The question here is, how does a speculative concept negotiate truth and falsity in the procedure of refutation? By first instituting the sphere of the concept as a realm of freedom, the movement of refutation offers Hegel's speculative alternative to the Verstandeslogik view of truth. Second, the logic of the concept advances by presenting the concept as a concrete universal. Moreover, Hegel qualifies the Begriff as Macht, but as a power of particular kind, namely as freie Macht, which is freie Liebe. Here, the conclusion of Nathan's parable is translated in speculative terms, while the refuted Spinoza eventually find its truest meaning. Finally, at the end of the process in which the concept is realized in the idea, Hegel presents the absolute idea not only as sich wissende Wahrheit, but also as alle Wahrheit. Concluding the logical process, the absolute idea establishes truth as a most comprehensive systematic totality attainable by the logic. Logical truth is all truth. The absolute idea is das ursprüngliche Wort. What makes the absolute idea truthful as verum verbum is its being the final result of the entire logical process. That which makes the word original, according to the programmatic claim of the phenomenology, is precisely that which sets it as a final result. The originality of truth is not its immediate availability. Schelling's pistol shot or an intellectual intuition, for example, but its position as final result. Its productivity does not lie in its alleged originality, but arises from its having been produced as a combination of the entire logical development. Now, in the analysis that follows, I shall limit myself to a discussion of the first point. So, refutation. Hegel presents the structure of Begriff as a double result. On the one hand, it is the result of the entire development of the objective logic. In this respect, the sphere of being and essence contained the genetische Exposition des Begriffs. On the other hand, the concept results from the very last logical development, namely the movement of substance. Significantly, Hegel translates this latter relation in terms of truth. The Begriff is die Wahrheit der Substanz, and since the chief modality of substance is the necessity, he concludes that Freiheit is die Wahrheit der Notwendigkeit, die Verhältnisweise des Begriffs. Hegel frames the problem of conceptual truth in terms of the process that produces a logical successor. Truth is truth of. It is that which succeeds or follows an accomplished and concluded movement. That which is succeeded or overcome in turn, viewed from the newly gained height, and only then, may be seen as false. The false emerges only once truth is established. Truth completes the false. Accordingly, the concept is Vollendung der Substanz, and as such, it is ein höheres, namely subject. The speculative form of truth, expressed in the syntactic form of truth of, is a structure according to which an advancement is made, and an ascending-oriented movement with a higher and a lower level is established. Moreover, since that which is overcome in the structure of truth specifies or determines this very truth as a truth of, that which perceives and is overcome is still present within truth. Clearly, this structure fundamentally alters the linear and static opposition of truth and falsity defended by the logic of understanding. Speculative truth does not leave anything behind. It is cumulative and inclusive. It is concrete in that it uses the false as a means to acquire determinateness and specification. What the structure of truth just describes brings to mind the general mode of dialectical Aufhebung at work throughout the logic. In order to introduce the concept, Hegel appeals to a different idea, namely the notion of Widerlegung. If the concept is the truth of substance, the philosophical system that paradigmatically remains stuck, this is Hegel, in the standpoint of substance is Spinoza's. Significantly, Spinoza is called in now, not because he generically represents the standpoint of substance, a point Hegel makes in the exposition of substance as the absolute in the logic of essence, but because he has stopped there and hence has not completed the thought of substance into its truth, namely the concept. The falsity or shortcoming, Mangel, that is involved in Spinoza's position consists in taking substance as a static, final, and highest truth that does not itself need to be completed in a higher truth. In so doing, Spinoza is unable to discover the speculative truth of substance, namely its successor, the concept. Thus, what Hegel needs to perform at the beginning of the logic of the concept